Hello, my creative friends, and welcome to another episode of Fast Screenwriting Daily. Now, I've had to record this episode before I find out what the results of the election are, so as I'm recording this, it's all still a big question. Hopefully you have a sense, by the time you're watching this, of how things turned out, how you feel about them, what the aftermath of that might look like. But what I want to talk about in this brief video is why you absolutely must write on a day like today. Now, if things went the way that you want and you're elated by the results, there's a certain excitement and enthusiasm and euphoria in that when you write will intrinsically color what you write. And similarly, if things went the way you didn't want them to go, you're going to be feeling emotions and sensations right now that if you pour that into your writing is going to be something truly special. One of the really important things writers often don't fully appreciate is that as a writer, your life, your experience, your perspective, your imagination is your source material. So the way you interpret current events is important to your own writing. This is why I'm generally not a big fan of writing to a story formula, because a formula is an inorganic way of shaping your ideas. And it basically just tries to shoehorn whatever you're thinking and whatever creativity you're bringing to the table into some prescribed stamp of approval type story form. But stories are about the human experience. Stories are about change. And the only way we can bring any sort of wisdom and insight and perspective into our storytelling is to really see it and appreciate it and understand it in our own lives when we're witnessing it. It's the reason so many songwriters and musicians go to such a dark place in their lives, or why writers are driven to drink, because when you're feeling your emotions at their highest, you tend to be able to capture and harness and really feel the heightened emotion that you're feeling. A story that is going to be worthy of someone's attention for an hour and a half to 2 hours, or if you're creating a TV series over multiple episodes, over multiple years, it needs layers, it needs nuance, it needs complexity. And the only real way to inject that complexity and that nuance into it is to fully understand and feel and bring your own awareness and perspective to those nuances, to those different facets of life by witnessing them and feeling them and experiencing them in your actual life experience. So on a day that you're likely feeling heightened emotion of some sort, whether it's anxiety or whether it's excitement or whether it's depression or whatever you're feeling right now, if you can capture that and harness that and pour that into your writing, what's going to happen is that the characters on the page will be injected with this electricity, this sense of authenticity, this life that we really don't get to when we sit down and try to figure it out in some analytical sort of way. A lot of writers are very meticulous and logic-driven, and they sit down and try to figure out how their story arc's going to happen and how the emotions of the story are going to unfold. And that's really important, and it's a big part of the planning part of the process. But what can give a story its humanity, what can give a story its raw power, what can give a story that something special that makes it truly resonate with an audience is a sense of shared humanity. If when you write a sad scene, you're writing it in a way that an audience can watch it, feel the emotions of the characters, and be drawn to it, that audience will feel something true, something authentic, something pure and real. And that is that intangible, indescribable, difficult to identify or explain trait of the best kinds of stories and the best kind of writing. And the way you capture it, the way you harness it, is on a day of heightened emotion, on a day when you're feeling something human and pure and raw. That's the time to write. That's the time to just, if nothing else, capture your thoughts and your feelings and pour them onto the page. You will see later, when you can be more detached and objective about it, you will see within your writing a quality, a character that is hard to pinpoint. It's hard to identify, but you'll recognize it as your true voice. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know that I'm all about you have to take consistent, ongoing daily action, because it's all about exercising those neurons, creating the synaptic connections, building the myelin sheath, adjusting the plasticity of your brain to enable you to do something powerful, more effectively, more consistently, more naturally, more fluidly, more intuitively, more organically. Part of it is the rote act of simply going back and doing it day after day after day. But part of it, the magic of it, is from infusing your unique perspective, your unique window on the world, however you perceive the events of today, the events of this week, the events of this past year, however you perceive it, the window and the lens you see it through. That is something no one else will ever have and no one else will ever witness. And your unique voice as a writer comes from not only seeing that perspective, not only being able to capture and harness and write down that perspective, but being able to connect with the emotion, the humanity of that experience. Writing is communication. Storytelling is sharing perspectives and ideas through taking an audience on an emotional journey by which they put themselves vicariously into a character experiencing a series of narrative events. The better you can get at tapping into what that experience feels like, the more powerful your writing will become. Now, there are all sorts of techniques and strategies and ways of going about doing this, which we'll get to. But these early Fast Screenwriting Daily episodes just happen to fall right around what's kind of a big global geopolitical event. So I think it's important right now to remind you to take action each day. At most, turn this into something therapeutic that can help you in a moment of heightened emotion, but to always remind you that if you want to write, the world is always going to go through ups and downs. Things that you love have happened in the world, things that we really hate have happened in the world. Something like a global pandemic was not really ever on anybody's radar, but the reality is your one-person window on that global event is unique. It's essential to be able to see it and feel it and experience it so that you can capture it and share it in a way that resonates with your reader. If you're in the US right now, as a majority of my viewers tend to be, this is a big day. If you're not, if you're outside the US, what is the perspective from your view? Maybe it's completely overblown for where you're living and what you're experiencing. Well, why not imagine yourself in that situation? How would you deal with it if you were dropped into that environment and had to react and respond to it based on the perspective that you have today, based upon all of the life that you've lived up to this point? All of us will always have differing opinions. All of us will always have differing perspectives. And this is what gives each of us intrinsic value. We're all going to see it differently. We're all going to perceive it differently. As a writer, your job is to connect with, understand, and be able to communicate that unique window on the world. And the way to do that is to take action every single day, even and especially on days of heightened emotion. So how is today affecting you? Let's not get into political discussions and blaming. And you know that I'm not about seeing the person on the other side as the villain, as you know from yesterday's episode. Instead, what's your window and how can you apply it to whatever it is that you're writing at this particular moment? Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about any of this, or you're interested in this kind of a video and you'd like me to take these ideas a little bit further. Let me know in the comments there too. And when you're done with this video, tomorrow's video, or the next video in this series, is going to be here. YouTube thinks you're going to like this video down here, and I don't know what's happening on this side of the screen. Have a great day. Write something today. We'll see you tomorrow.